Hi guys, welcome back to session 69 of Java Full Stack Made Easy. In this session, we will learn how do we consume an external API. In previous sessions, we have already consumed the API that we are creating a fake REST API, but now we are gonna explore a live API integration into our Angular. So first of all, I'll go back to my superhero project which I completed in my last session. So let me just close up everything that I have written here. Fine. So as for now, what I need is I need my app component HTML. So I'll clean up everything that's written in the app component HTML, which we used in the superhero. So as if like I'm creating a new Angular project, or else what we can do is we will create a new Angular project itself, and there we can simply go ahead and consume the new API. So ng new, uh, let's call it as external API hyphen hyphen no standalone. Okay. All right, so zoneless again I'm creating. Let's just close this. Once this particular project is created, we will be integrating an external API. Let us first now understand which external API we are talking about. So one of the external API I will search is going to be a news api.org. Fine. So this is the API which I want to integrate, and this API actually gives us what? It gives us the uh, live news. Okay, so what you can do is you can go for the documentation, or you can go for the endpoints. Over here you can see that there are top headlines, how you can retrieve it, what parameters you can give. So you can read about this API. Since I've already used this API, I know things about this particular API. Okay, so because of which I here should be able to retrieve this API easily. You can see that in version 2 headlines, it requires a country, and an API key will be required. So you can also pass in the requested parameter to it, and accordingly there will be different APIs with different style of integration. So you have to read about the API integration. So they will be giving you the samples like this. So based on those samples, you can integrate these APIs into your application. Fine. So I would actually like to take this particular API, and for this API you have to perform a sign up and then do a login to get an API key. So without an API key, you will not be able to integrate this API into your application. So by now I think my Angular project is created. So you can see that the Angular project is created. I will open that particular Angular project here, which is completely a new Angular project, which is my external API. So this new Angular project is opened. Now what I'm gonna do is, in my new Angular project, I will be first creating a service, so where I can consume this API that I showed you. So external API is the repository where I'm into. Now let's do a ng generate service. Let's call it as API uh, integration service. Cannot be loaded because running. Okay, sorry, that is my PowerShell. So in PowerShell you're bound to get those errors. So let's go for a command prompt. Now ng generate service. Let's call it as API service. So that will be taken now, API service. So let's explore this src, and then here we will find the API service being created. First of all, in the HTML page, I'll just clean up everything that's written here, and then I will go to the service that I have generated, that is API service.typescript, and let's import or inject the API. So we know that app module.typescript, we have to first inject the HTTP client module there. So in case if we require forms module in future, I'll just be importing that forms module and HTTP client module. Okay, so once this is imported, we can easily go to the service, and from the service we can inject the things that are required from an API. So constructor will be created obviously, and then we will be injecting the private HTTP of type HTTP client. All done. with the constructor part. Now let's consume the API. While consuming the API, we should know that this API is returning us things like who is the author, what is the title, and what is the description of that news, and also it is giving us these details, the URL of that news, URL to image that shows us the image of the news, when it is published, the contents and everything, right? So what all things you require from here, you have to put that in model so that you can map it in your application. So as for now, what I'm gonna do is I will create a model first, and I will decide what all things I will be needing into it. So I'll call it as news.model.typescript. So in this news model typescript, I'm just gonna create an export a class. Let's call it as article. News articles is something which I want to integrate. So I will take the title of the news. Since I have already worked with this API, so I know a lot of things about this API. Fine. So if you are very new to access this particular API, you have to read the documentation for the same. So description, an empty description, URL. Then we had what, URL to image, right? Yeah, URL to image. So as of now, all of that is empty itself. And also I'd like to take who has written this particular news. So author is there, author. So these are the things which I want to integrate into my application: title, description, URL to image, and the author of the news. Some of the news will have author, some newses don't have the author. Anyways, so I have created the model, and then I'm gonna integrate this particular service accordingly. Fine. So first of all, we will go and finish off the service part of this. After that, we will go with the components stuff, right? So in terms of service, we're just gonna consume this, right? So let's consume this service, which will be called as the get news. Okay, so or let's call it as get headlines. Okay, so then http, that is this dot http dot get the news of type what, articles, right? Articles type news, and then I'm gonna just pass in the URL there. So here already they have shown us the demo for the URL, so we have to take up that URL there. So once you subscribe to this particular API, you get the API key as well. So I encourage you to subscribe to this and get your API key. Okay, and the country that you wish, from there you can get the headlines. Any country you can pass in there. So I already have subscribed to some of the APIs, the news API, Giphy API, and the ninjas.com. So I will be using that API key. Or what we can first do is we will test this entire API stuff into our Postman to know whether this thing works or not. Fine. So it would be better, before we integrate everything, let us test that into Postman whether we have the API up and running or not. So let's go to a get functionality, put this API with an API key. Let's send the request and see what details we are getting. It says the status is okay, total results are not there, and even the API is not returning me any articles. That means the country stuff is wrong. So let's check. Yeah, for US it's there. So let me remove that country part and see what we get. Yeah, so it requires the country parameter or at least the category parameter. Fine. So we can also read about the country codes, category, source, page, status, articles. Okay, so all right, no problem. So we will integrate the of the country you want to get headlines for. Possible options: US. Note, you can't mix this pattern with the source parameter. So possible options are US itself, so he has not given any other option. So anyways, we will give that option itself and try to retrieve the details. So we are able to retrieve the details here. Fine. So we can either get the headlines like this, or we can also get the headlines based on what? Based on the uh, category. So it can be a business category and all that. So you can see that business, entertainment, general health. So based on either country or category we can take. So let's go for the category part, and we will take general category. This is the parameter that can be passed. So category, general category. Let's search for the news here. So it is giving me the news for general category, or also if I want to get the category sports or any type of news, I can get sports category. So sorry, category is equal to sports. I can get the news based on that. So how do we integrate this into our application, right? So the next thing would be the same thing only. We will have that stuff in our mind, like how are we going to integrate this, right? So let us go ahead and try to integrate this news API, which we are able to access it here into our actual what you say, into our Angular application, where what we are gonna do is we will be creating a service and we will try to consume the same. Okay, so let's go here, and we have already created a service, and we have already created a model as well, and we are trying to consume the same. So I have written everything, the type of category that I want. Yeah, and in here I'm just passing in the country, that is India, and for India it was not giving me any news, so let's try US itself. All right, so this is done, and I should be able to get the news based on the articles, and let us try and integrate the same into our uh, HTML page, that is app component HTML and app component TypeScript. So let's first go to the TypeScript part of this and try to consume that service which we have created there. Okay, so here we come, and first of all we will be writing a constructor so that we can inject the service here. So it is going to be private API service is something which I have created, right? Let's call it as HTTP, let's call it as API service. Okay, so we can call it as a news as well, so that would be a more meaningful name. Okay, so let's call it as get news. One function I'm writing to get all the headlines. Fine, and here I'm gonna call the API, that is articles API, right? So let's simply do what we will say, HTTP dot get headlines dot subscribe. I think I missed return there. Yes, so a return statement has to be written, then only we will be able to subscribe here. So subscribe, we know that it takes two arguments. It can either return us the data or it can return us the error. In terms of data, I will just do a console log data to check what it is returning, and then in terms of an error, I will just do a console.log error to check what it throws, okay, if there is an error. And the same thing I will try to integrate with what implements ng, sorry, on init, and I'll take an ng on init, ng on init, and once this happens, so we should get a get news. And we know that sometimes this does not happen, and because of the zoneless nature of our application, so for that we have to again take uh, here I have to go for cdf change detection detector reference, CDF, let's call it a CDR or something, that would be more meaningful. So then here once that happens, I will do a CDR dot detect changes, so that should actually trigger the ng on in it, and it should load this particular thing. Fine, so let's save it. And on an HTML page, as for now, I will not be writing anything. I'll just be saying that this is a paragraph, today's headlines is something I'll write, right? Let's save it and do a ng serve hyphen o and test first. We will be saying it only on the console as for now, right? So it shows today's headlines. Let's go to the console and see what it returns on the console. So there is an object in the console, that is the articles array. So I'm able to get the articles. So within the articles array, I'm able to get things. So let's check now. I will try to map this articles that I'm getting from there into my articles array that I should actually create here. So articles of type articles array, which will be an empty array. The articles I have already created, and I will try to do a articles is equal to the data. Okay, and then I will also try and do a console.log of this articles that I'm trying to retrieve from there. So let's save it. Let's go back. So now we are able to get two details. So in the articles array also, I'm able to get the articles again. Within that articles, I have this 18 articles there. So let me just check whether I'm able to get an articles of 0 or not. Okay, this dot articles of 0. Okay, so if I print that, let me check what am I getting. So if I print articles of 0, I'm getting an undefined data. Fine. So let me also try and do a console.log data.articles and check whether I will be getting that array or not. So this dot data dot articles, and I'll not initialize this. And this is not this dot data, it is just the data dot articles, right? So if you notice here, if I do a data dot articles, it says the articles property does not exist on that. So that means the type of data that I'm retrieving here is not a well-formed JSON data. So what I have to do for this is, when I am not getting a well-formed JSON data, first of all I'll go to this API service and it is not properly returning me in this article. So let this be of type generic, of type any. Okay, so this gives me any type of details, so I'll just do that. And here what I'm gonna do is console.log data we were doing, and now I will convert that entire data into a JSON, a type of object. So for that, we know that we can use a JSON dot parse. If you remember JSON stringify that I did when I was performing Angular pipes, right? So here once again I'll use JSON dot stringify the data that I'm getting. So convert that data into a string first and parse it properly to the JSON type of data. Now let us check. Let my JSON equal to that data, and now let's do a console.log, and my JSON dot article should be there now. So yes, now it is returning us the articles. Let's just check the length of this. If it gives me the length, that means it is the proper object that I'm retrieving. So it's not giving me the length for this. I think I misspelled that. So it should, yeah, reading length of articles dot length. Let's check this now. So it is still undefined. Yeah, 18 length I am able to get. That means I'm able to retrieve the articles from here. So I'll just try with articles as well. So you can see that I'm able to get 18 data. That means now this my JSON dot articles do contain what the articles. So what I'm gonna do now is that the entire articles that I have, I will store that into the articles that I am creating here, which is this part, right? Articles array should be this articles, this one, my JSON article. So let's try and do that. This dot articles equals to my JSON dot articles. Okay, and let's print the this dot articles of 0 now. So my JSON dot articles we have already seen. Now let's see whether that is added into our articles or not. This dot articles dot the articles of 0 dot title. So we I'm just testing whether I'm able to get all the 18 titles or not. So you can see that I'm able to get the titles of 0, articles of 0 title I'm able to get. That means uh, I'm successfully able to get the articles. Okay, so this dot articles is finalized. Now let's go to HTML and then simply retrieve all the details from the articles that we have initialized there. Okay, so it is pretty simple. What was happening was the data which I was getting was not in the proper format, so that's why I just formatted it properly by taking in, by actually converting this data that is coming up to me into a JSON format. So once I convert it into JSON format, so it is well formed JSON object. So once I get a well formed JSON object, I am able to map that to the articles array that I have created. Now everything is stored into the articles array that I have. So I'm just gonna iterate over that articles array and then display all the details from the news API. So what I'm gonna do is uh, I'll have an I'll create a div, and I'll repeat this div ng for let articles of articles, let article of articles. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do now. When I get the articles, which is yeah, this is spelled wrong, so because of that I was getting the error there. So let's change it, articles, which I should initialize here also. So let us initialize that as well, and once that's done, let's go here, let article of articles. So now there should not be any error. Now each article contains the title, each article contains the URL, contains the URL to image as well. So for now what I will do is in the h1 tag I'm gonna print the article dot title. The title will be displayed there, so it should be there into my interpolation, article dot title. So title will be displayed here, so and 18 titles will be displayed as an heading. And similarly what I will do now is that I will print the other details, like article is there, and then we know the URL, we know the URL to image as well. So we have an image, I want the image to be displayed here. The image source is actually coming from the article, so I'll just do a binding to it. It will be article dot URL to image. Okay, so that should be mapped, and the width also I will change. Width of this is gonna be 200 pixels. Automatically height will become 200 pixels as well. So I'm putting up an image, and also what I will do is I'll put up a break line here and do a what return by the author name. I'll write here. Fine. So the author name will be again article dot author, and what we had something like the URL that allows us to read the entire news. So we will have a read more, and once a user clicks on the read more, the user should be able to get the uh, URL. And also there was description, right? So let me just put up a description here. That will be article dot description. And once the description is given, what we will do is after this description, we will have something called as a read more, and if a user clicks on that read more, at that time we will be allowing the user to read the full article. Fine. So for that I will take a anchor tag, a href. This obviously you might ask here why we are not taking a router link here, why we are taking an href. That is because we're actually targeting to an external link, not to the internal component. So whenever we want to interconnect the components, at that time we go for the router link. And if we want an external link to be accessed, at that time hyperlink will itself be used. So hyperlink is also going to be bound. So I'm going to take this hyperlink, perform a binding to it, and it requires an article dot url. Fine. So then I'll say if somebody clicks on this read more, they will go to that particular article. So let's save it and see how our application looks like, whether we are successfully getting the news or not. So you can see that I'm able to get the title of the news, and also I can see that who has written that particular thing. And if I want to read more about that particular article, I can simply click on read more and read about the article. So if I click on this, so I can see that the complete news I can read about that particular article there. So this way we can so what is happening into my API is that if you see the API, which is hosted on http colon slash slash localhost 4200, you can see that I have posted live news here. So that way we can integrate live news into our API. And also obviously, like in the previous session, we asked the chat GPT to organize this properly. So we can also ask chat GPT now to integrate bootstrap in here and make this look prettier. So that way we can get the external API implemented into our Angular applications. In my next session I'll show you one more API and plus some more endpoints of the same news API. So before that, let me just share this code with you, which is quite simple and easy to understand. So an API service I will give you. Let's go here, and this is session 69, right? So let's create a repository for the same. Let's call it as day 69 demo 1 news API headlines. And for this I actually did a ng new API, or let's call it as external API hyphen hyphen no stand alone. So that way I created the application, and then I created a service, ng generate service. So let me see what is the service name. That is API service. So I generated a API service, and this is my API service dot TypeScript. So pretty simple and straightforward. This is the link, and here you have to write your API key. Okay. So you do subscribe, sign up to that link, the news API, and you will get the API key from there. And then I simply have the app.html where I'm displaying all these details. So this is my app.html. Here we go. And the lastly, we have the app.typescript implemented here, where we are consuming the API. So here is the app.TypeScript, and also I have the model, so I'll be giving you the model as well, so which is the article stuff in my case. So this is news model which I have created. And finally we have the app.module.typescript, where I'm integrating the forms module and the HTTP client module. So this way you can implement an external API into your application, and you can post the live news into your application, and also you can consume the other endpoints that are shown here. This is about the headlines, and you can also check for the other other endpoints like everything, what it shows, and the questions search can be done, and the category of the news can be selected. So in the next session I'll show you one or two more from here, and after that we will move to the other API consumption. So see you in the next session. Thank you for your patience.